How's it going, everybody? Daner here with North Central Coins, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the most rare and valuable coins in Canada. Today we're going to be counting down the 12 most valuable Canadian pennies of all time that you can find in your collection or by searching your pocket change, and if identified correctly, can be worth some buku amounts of money. Even though these aren't your average pieces of currency, just about anyone can find these Canadian coins if you do know what to look for. And in this video, we will explore the historical context of these Holy Grail coins and delve into why they hold such importance in Canadian numismatic history. Additionally, we will discuss any distinguishing or identifying features, their significance among collectors, and also potential value if you are ever to discover a legitimate example. Before I do get into this, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification so you can stay up to date with my new content as it is being released. And make sure to stay to the end of the video if you would like to find out what is the most valuable Canadian penny of all time. And then without further ado, what do you say we get right into it and break down my picks for the top 12 most valuable Canadian pennies. Let's get it, guys. So as I start this list off, I'm going to work my way from the least valuable being number 12, all the way up to the most valuable being number 1 on this list. For those of you who aren't aware, the Canadian penny ceased production for circulation in the year 2012, so there aren't any Holy Grail pennies after 2012 that you want to look for. And even though unfortunately the Canadian penny is not in production anymore and it is pretty hard to get your hands on penny boxes or rolls from the bank, fortunately, there are some extremely rare pennies from the 2000s that can be worth some insane amounts of money. That being said, what do you say we start this list off with number 12, which is going to be the 2006 Canadian penny, and this is the magnetic variety. Now, there are several varieties for the 2006 Canadian penny. There is a 2006 without any mint or identifying mark under the Queen's bust on the obverse, and then there is a 2006 with a P mint mark, and also a 2006 with the Royal Canadian Mint logo. In this case, you're looking for the 2006 with no marks, and you want the coin to be magnetic. If you can identify both of those factors, it can be worth around $5 on the low end. I'm going to give you guys the low end and the high end values for these coins. So the 2006 magnetic can be worth around $5 if it's beat up, worn, and been put through the meat grinder. But as you start to get into the mint state region, you start to see some pretty decent price jumps. It can be worth around $75 for an MS60 and all the way up to $860 for an MS67 example, and that is for the 2006 magnetic Canadian penny. Number 11 is going to be the 1965 Canadian penny. Now, you're going to need to identify a variety for this one if you want to get the maximum amount of money for this coin. What you want to do is flip over to the obverse of the coin and inspect the beads or denticles. Now, I will give you a comparison of the large and small beads, but what you are looking for on the 1965 is the large bead. Now, once you have identified the large bead, you need to flip over to the reverse and take a look at the date. Now, you want to take a look at the 5, which is the last digit in the 1965 date for this Canadian penny, and you want to identify the pointed 5. I will put an example of what you want to look for to identify that. And if you can identify both of those factors, the large beads and the pointed 5 for the 1965 Canadian penny, it can be worth around $3 or $4 on the low end. And as you start to get into the mint state region, you start to see some price jumps. It can be worth around $60 for an MS63 and all the way up to $1,000 for an MS66. The great thing about this coin is it is one of the more common dates on this list that you can actually find. I have found several 1965 Canadian pennies. I have found large beads and pointed 5s. They are out there, so keep your eyes open, folks. Number 10 on this list is going to be another 2006 Canadian penny, and this one is going to be the 2006, and this is with a P or identifying mark on the obverse under the Queen's bust, and this is non-magnetic. So to identify this, you want to flip over to the obverse, take a look under the bust of Queen Elizabeth II, and look for a little P mint mark. Now, if you can identify that small P mint mark, you want to check it with a magnet, and if it does not stick, you have yourself a fairly rare Canadian penny. Now this one can be worth around $10 if it is beat up, worn, and been put through the meat grinder, but as we start to get up into the mint state region, it can be worth around $800 for an MS63 and all the way up to $2,000 for an MS65. This is a fairly recent coin, so if you were to find one and it scored any higher, I'm sure you would see some big price jumps. We could even be talking a $10,000 penny here. And that is for the 2006 P non-magnetic. Number 9 is going to be the 2005 P non-magnetic. Now this actually comes out of a proof set. Now I don't want to say that you can't ever find one of these pennies in one of your coin roll hunts, but chances are if you are going to find the 2005 P non-magnetic, it is going to come out of a proof set. Now this might be a good one to cherry pick if you can get a good deal on some proof sets and you see a 2005 P penny in the set. This might be a good one to look for. Now in terms of value, it can be worth around $1,150 for a PL64 and all the way up to $3,290 for a PL67. And to identify the 2005 P non-magnetic, you want to flip over to the obverse, look under the Queen's bust for that little P mint mark, and then you want to check it for a magnet and hope that it does not stick. Number 8 on this list is going to be the 2003 P non-magnetic with the old effigy of Queen Elizabeth II. Now to identify this coin, you want to flip over to the obverse, and firstly, you want Queen Elizabeth to have the crowned portrait, or the old effigy as this heir refers to it as, and then you want to check under the bust of the Queen for a little P mint mark. And if you can identify both of those factors, then you also want to check it with a magnet and hope that it does not stick. Now this is designated as a proof coin, so chances are you probably aren't going to find one of them in the wilds of circulation, but never say never. You never know if somebody maybe opened up a set and dumped one of these pennies back in the day, or maybe even a few of these varieties escaped out in uncirculated rolls. Number 7 on this list is going to be the 1923 King George V Canadian penny. You don't need to identify any heirs or varieties, you just simply need to find the date of 1923. It is considered a key date, it has a very low mintage figure, and because of that, it adds quite a substantial premium to the coin. It can be worth around $15 on the low end of the Sheldon scale, so that is a beat up and worn example of the coin. But as we start to get into the MS range, we see some pretty big price jumps. It can be worth around $2,000 for an MS63 example, and all the way up to $4,530 for an MS64. So if you were to get lucky and find an uncirculated example of a 1923 and it scored any higher than MS64, you could have a holy grail coin on your hands for sure. Number 6 is going to be the 1955 no shoulder fold Queen Elizabeth II Canadian penny. To identify the 1955 no shoulder fold, what you want to do is flip over to the obverse of the coin and take a look at the eye and the DEI. Now, if the eye is straight and blunt, then it is the shoulder fold, and if the eye has serifs that flare out at the end, then it is the no shoulder fold, and that is the variety that you are looking for the 1955. In terms of its low-end value, it can be worth around $125 for a beat-up and worn example, and as we start to get into the mint state region, we see some pretty nice price jumps. It can be worth around $2,100 for an MS63 and all the way up to $6,700 for an MS64 example. This would be another good coin that you could look out for, and you might be able to find one that scores a little bit higher. I have actually found 1955 pennies in some of my hunts that have been in the mint state range, and I actually never sent them off to be graded. I've thought about it, and I might make a video in the future. If you guys would like to see that, then let me know down in the comments. Also, smash that thumbs up if you have not already. But the 1955 no shoulder fold Canadian penny, definitely a good one to look for, and definitely worth some really good money. Number 5 on this list is going to be another King George V Canadian penny, and that is the 1924. Now, most of the early King George V Canadian small cents are considered extremely rare in the world of coin collecting, and the 1924 is definitely no exception. It is not quite as rare as the 1922, but it does have a pretty good high-end premium. It is worth around $5 in a low-grade state, but as we start to get into the MS range, it can be worth around $9,500 for an MS-65 example. So it's not actually quite as rare or valuable as the 1923, but you should definitely consider yourself lucky if you find a 1922, 1923, or 1924 Canadian penny. Number 4 on this list is going to be the 1922 King George V Canadian penny. Now this is the last of those early King George V small cents that are worth a ton of money. This one is super rare and valuable as well. Not quite as valuable as the 1923, but it does have a higher appraised price estimate. It's worth around $11 on the low end, but the 1922 has an estimate of $10,500 for an MS-65 example. So we are starting to get into the 5 figures right now. That is pretty insane if you ask me. And that is for the 1922 Canadian King George V penny. Number 3 on this list is going to be a King George VI penny, and that is the 1949 A points to dentical. Now to identify this, what you need to do is flip over to the obverse of the coin and look at the second A in the wording for gratia. And if you inspect it under a microscope or you zoom in with your phone and it looks like the A is pointing directly to one of the denticles, then you have yourself a very rare Canadian penny. The 1949 A points to dentical can be worth around $6 at the very bottom of the Sheldon scale, so that's a pretty beat up and worn example. Can be worth around $200 for an MS-63, around $3,260 for an MS-65, and $13,900 for an MS-66. So this coin may not be as rare and sought after as some of the early King George V key dates, but it has a higher estimated price value at the MS-66, being a 5-figure coin worth $13,900. Number 2 on this list is going to be our one and only Queen Victoria penny that we are covering. Now this is a holy grail coin if you have ever heard or seen of one. It doesn't even have any high-end prices listed, and it's one of the most valuable coins on this list by far. And that is the 1859 narrow 9 with brass composition. Now these 1859 narrow 9 brass pennies are mainly distinguishable by their yellow color as opposed to the red 1859 copper pennies, which is the regular composition they were intended to be struck in. There are currently only a few known examples of this coin, but that doesn't mean that you may not be able to fish one out on an eBay or Facebook marketplace purchase. Sometimes you can buy big lots of coins and get a pretty good deal, and this would be one that you might be able to score in a big large cent lot purchase. Now, in terms of the value, the 1859 narrow 9 with brass composition can be worth around $6,300 at the very bottom of the Sheldon scale. So even if someone has taken this thing and smacked it with a hammer, you're still talking a couple $1,000s for this coin. And as we start to get up into the grading tiers, this can be worth around $33,900 for a VF20 example. And that is for the 1859 narrow 9 with brass. Now the brass only comes with the narrow 9, so you don't really need to identify that. If it has the brass composition, then you have yourself a unicorn. Now we have made it to number 1 on this list, and number 1 should come as no surprise to any experienced Canadian coin collector. It is included in just about every most rare Canadian coin video of all time, and that is the 1936 dot penny. Now there are only a few known examples of this coin, and they are technically designated SP, which means they come out of specimen sets, so the chance that you're ever going to find one of these in the wild is pretty much slim to nil. But I'm sure crazier things have happened, and you never know, maybe your grandpa has one of these sitting up in his attic that he'll hand down to you one day. So to identify the 1936 dot penny, what you want to do is look at the date on the reverse and look underneath for a small dot. I will put an example of what you want to look for. It is pretty small and it can be confused with smudges, it can be confused with scratches and chips, but you want to make sure that that dot is very pronounced. Now in terms of its value, in 2003 an SP66 example sold at Heritage Auctions for $230,000, and that was certified by PCGS. So this is one of the most valuable Canadian coins of all time. Basically, any of the 1936 dot coins, they come out of the 1936 dot specimen set. I believe there is a dime and a quarter as well, and they are super rare and valuable, and the penny is definitely no exception. What do you guys think about my picks for the 12 most valuable Canadian pennies? What would you do if you ever found a legitimate example of any of these coins, or if you ever have found any of the pieces that I discussed in this video? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to know. Also, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification to stay up to date with my new content. But I think that is pretty much going to do it for this one, folks. So, until the next one, everybody, peace out, and have a good one, y'all.